that it's not Biden. We can use the term Biden, but we mean his administration. He's not, I mean, the only thing he can do is read the Ron Burgundy fine print on the teleprompter.
That's
Uh,
right.
I mean, this is all he's good for. I wish they'd put in there sometime, F all you Americans.
Yeah,
just
they
like
just
just
could
like
do
the Ron
anything.
Burgundy movie, yeah.
Well, let me ask you, this is another important thing. We don't have that much more time. What about Kerry Lake? Because I know that you are really up on what's going on in Arizona, probably more than anybody else
Yeah.
in the state. And what is, because she's not officially the candidate yet. So why is that?
No, that's a good question. Let me give you the backside of this. Katie Hobbs is a $2 million supported candidate for the Secretary of State. And Katie Hobbs is a total communist. She's a mindless oomph with a low IQ, no integrity, no morality. She even announced in her campaign, Secretary of State, my job is to get elected and I'll get other Democrats elected too. I mean, she said this. I published the video of
Mm.
this on my site. It's not like someone told me. Okay, so she's supposed to be the governor. Okay. Um, Robeson, the wife of a huge entrepreneur in terms of great wealth. And some people say he has Marxist leanings. I don't know if that's true or not, but Robeson does. I used to work in this community college district. I was a basketball coach for 10 years in this district, and I taught some courses in this district. And I remember when she was on the board, like the school board, she voted to give illegal aliens free tuition, yet she's campaigning on border security when she was running against Kerry Lake. Now, here comes Kerry Lake. Kerry Lake quit being the number one newscaster in Arizona. Number one, not even close. All these awards. And she said, I can't continue to lie to the American people like we're lying to them. And so she quit to run for governor. She did donate to Barack Obama, but I'm not bothered by that because at the time that she did it, it would have been the fashionable thing for someone in the media to do, whether or not they liked him or
Well,
not.
and people
So to
also
me,
learned and changed, and lots have changed since then.
yeah. Well, let me just finish the story real quick because Kerry Lake, I voted for her in the primary because I think she's the lesser of two evils, and I don't know if she's evil. She doesn't have a track record. We'll have to wait and see. But I know I don't want Robeson, who's a liar, saying that she'll protect us on the border when she was supporting illegal aliens getting free tuition. There's no way I could support that. But here's the interesting thing in Arizona. They're still counting votes after all this time. In other words, this is what I was
They're
told
figuring out
by,
how to cheat.
well, yeah, well, let me just tell you this. I was told this by a man who was in law enforcement, and I won't say where. And I was told this by another guy who's retired DOJ. And both people told me this on the same day, that the plan is to get Robeson elected as the Republican nominee for governor. And she takes a dive in the campaign, and Katie Hobbs gets elected. Kerry Lake won't take such a dive. And so what's interesting about that is they're still counting votes to unseat Kerry Lake. The fix could be in Maricopa County.
Well, it
Um,
sounds like it. That's their mode now. Is when somebody wins by a lot, they have to shut it down and say, okay, how can we cheat now? And they spend some time.
ballots. They're counting
Yeah.
ballots
Yeah.
now.
Well, I know,
How
but it's
many
all
times have we
BS.
seen this before?
That's right.
Okay.
That's
Um,
right.
we need Dinesh D'Souza, and now we need to have 2001 mules. Um, the other thing I want to mention before we close, and there's not much to develop here on this, but I know an awful lot about the Kennedy assassination. I know what led up to it. I know the forces that were involved. I even know the trigger man on the grassy knoll, where he was from, his name. I know everything about him. Um, when we look at the Kennedy assassination, they first tried to discredit him with sexual scandal. They did that with Donald Trump. And then quietly, through the FBI intimidating Kennedy, they tried to intimidate him with political scandal, like the stolen election in Cook County that his dad arranged with Meyer Lansky, organized crime figure. So they tried to get him on that. Um, and when that didn't work, and he just kept, basically, I love Kennedy because he pissed on their leg and told them it was raining. And I just love what he did to them, but he paid for it with his life.
Yeah.
Whether it was a nuclear arms reduction, no Vietnam War, producing his own silver coin as opposed to the Federal Reserve note. I mean, I go on and on. The doing away with the oil depletion allowance for the Rockefellers, everything was there. And finally, he says, "We're going to make an example of him." And they didn't try to assassinate him in a covert way. It was a public execution that was a
Yep.
message to everybody else that would follow. Now, let me take this example. Because I have followed this scenario, Donald Trump's in the same mode. I believe that the Democrats and deep state know they can't lose control of both houses of Congress or even one house of Congress because they won't get their stuff passed. Government will be paralyzed for 2 years, then it would be coming up on 2024. So I believe Donald Trump is in the assassination zone right now. If they can't indict him based on fake evidence that they did in Mar-a-Lago, and every piece of their behavior, they had every opportunity to install fake evidence because there wasn't proper oversight from Trump's lawyers to look and see that the law was being followed. So when we look at this, I think Trump is a marked man. And Trump one time said this, and I totally agree. This is the best quote I think he ever said. He said, "I am not their enemy. You are. I'm just in the way."
Yeah.
And I totally agree with that sentiment. They want to subjugate. Look at the digital coin that we talked about. They want to totally subjugate you, bend to their will. And I'm just going to make two associations here. We have an unbelievable amount of American politicians, including even the mayor of Phoenix. That's how far down they go in the hierarchy, that have been trained by Klaus Schwab in their Young Global Leaders program. Trudeau, half of the Biden administration, they are all, by the way, don't believe Tulsi Gabbard, folks. She's masquerading as a fake conservative. I don't have time to develop this thought today, but they have plans for her. She is not a conservative. She's trained by Klaus Schwab, and she has ultra liberal views that I'm sure have not changed. But anyway, let's talk about Trump just to kind of conclude this. They know they're running out of time, and if you don't think you're their enemy, Noel Uvalde Harari, the right-hand man to Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum that's trained so many world leaders, including our own, said, we don't need all these people in the world. He said this yesterday. This broke in the news yesterday. What they're basically saying is all those quotes of depopulation that we used to talk about 15 years ago and you'd read about in print, they're true. They want 90% of you gone. This is why I think they blew up the Georgia Guidestones, because the Georgia Guidestone says reduce the population to 500 million, which is a 90% reduction. So I think that this is exactly why they did what they did with the Georgia Guidestones. They want to wipe out most of humanity. They don't need us. AI, and Harari talked about the AI component to this. Folks, they're going to kill Trump because they can't have him come in and resurge. And why is that? Because he'll put China back in their place. China's their world policeman. China will be their enforcement agent around the world because they've got the landmass and the army to carry out the deeds of the New World Order. And they can't have Trump coming in and opposing China. We can't have a resurgence of American patriotism. They're criminalizing American patriotism with all these profiles of domestic terrorists. If you fly a Betsy Ross flag or the Come and Take It flag, the Gonzales flag in Texas, you're a domestic terrorist. They want to squelch all patriotism because America has to fall. We're the last obstacle to the New World Order. And if Trump looks like he may surge and become the president, lead a movement to take both houses back, if they can't indict him, they are going to assassinate him. There's no question in my mind.
Okay, so we don't have very little time. So finish up your thought and tell us where we can find your work.
Well, I think that's my final thought. I think that I'll let that stand as my final statement. I'll just say this. You can find me at thecommonsenseshow.com. We have a TV show, thecommonsenseshow.tv. We have podcasts that are listed at thecommonsenseshow.com. We run all of them right there at the bottom of the page. And we're just wherever we can be, whenever we can be. And it's always great being on with you, and I know we're pushed for time.
Okay. Thanks, Dave. You're awesome.
Thanks, Sarah, for having me on. It's really an honor to be with you. Take care.